When we talk about being nice, it's important to recognize how often that word gets misunderstood or misapplied in relationships. Many times, being nice can mean suppressing who you really are to avoid conflict or to gain someone's approval. But here's the reality: there's a difference between being nice and being genuinely kind or respectful. When you're just being nice to a man, often it's rooted in the fear of rejection or the desire to be liked. And what happens? You start overcompensating. You go out of your way to make them comfortable, to cater to their needs, to make sure they see you as agreeable and accommodating. But let me tell you real, lasting connections aren't built on niceness. They're built on authenticity. Authenticity is about being yourself unapologetically. It's about showing up as you are with all your quirks, your preferences, and your boundaries intact. Men don't fall in love with the idea of someone who never disagrees, never has their own perspective, or never stands up for themselves. They're drawn to women who are confident enough to say, this is who I am, and I'm not afraid to let you see the real me. When you're constantly being nice, you dilute your essence. You become what you think they want instead of showing them who you truly are. Now, let's take a moment to think about what happens when you prioritize niceness over respect. It's exhausting, isn't it? You're always wondering if you said the right thing, if you did enough to please them, if they're happy with you. And in doing so, you lose sight of your own happiness. Being nice becomes a performance, and sooner or later, the mask slips. But here's the secret: respect trumps niceness every time. When you respect yourself enough to be honest, to voice your needs, to hold your ground, you set the standard for how you want to be treated. And respect is what earns love, not bending over backward to avoid ruffling feathers. This shift in mindset changes the way you approach relationships. Instead of trying to win someone's favor by being overly accommodating, you create space for a connection based on mutual appreciation. Men can sense when you're not being genuine. And while they might enjoy the temporary convenience of someone who always agrees with them, they'll eventually crave a deeper, more authentic connection. And that's the connection that lasts. So instead of focusing on being nice, focus on being real. Be honest about what you want and don't shy away from expressing it. Show that you're confident enough to be yourself, even if it means risking disapproval. Remember, the right man won't be put off by your authenticity, he'll be drawn to it. Authenticity is magnetic, and it has the power to create a bond that niceness never could. Let the real you shine, and watch how the dynamic of your relationships transforms. Let's talk about the concept of boundaries and why they're absolutely essential in relationships. For some reason, the idea of setting boundaries has been painted as something negative, as though it's about keeping people out or creating distance. But the truth is, boundaries aren't walls, they're guidelines. They're a way of saying, this is what I need to feel respected, valued, and whole. And the incredible thing is, when you set boundaries, you don't push people away, you draw the right ones closer. Many women fall into the trap of thinking that being boundaryless makes them more lovable, more desirable. They say yes to things they don't want to do. They overlook behaviors that make them uncomfortable. And they tolerate situations that don't align with their values, all in the name of keeping the peace or being seen as low maintenance. But what happens when you do that? You end up teaching others, men in particular, that your needs and feelings are secondary. And once that precedent is set, it becomes harder and harder to break the cycle. Men respect boundaries far more than they respect compliance. When you clearly communicate what you will and will not accept, you're not being difficult, you're being clear. And clarity is powerful. It sends the message that you know your worth and that you won't settle for less than you deserve. And here's the truth: the right man will rise to meet those boundaries. The wrong man, he'll push back or he'll walk away. And let me tell you, that's a gift. Because the wrong man walking away makes space for the right man to step in. Setting boundaries also teaches men how to treat you. If you show that you're willing to compromise on your values or your happiness just to make someone else comfortable, you set a precedent that they can disregard your needs. But when you establish boundaries, you set a new precedent, one of mutual respect. You're not just demanding respect, you're modeling it, showing what it looks like to value yourself deeply. And let's not forget, boundaries aren't just about saying no, they're also about saying yes. Yes to what aligns with your goals, your values, and your vision for your life. Yes to the things that light you up and make you feel empowered. Yes to the kind of love that honors and uplifts you, not one that diminishes or drains you. When you approach relationships from this place of clarity and confidence, you naturally attract men who are ready and willing to meet you there. The beauty of boundaries is that they simplify everything. You don't waste time trying to figure out how to navigate situations that don't feel right because you've already decided what's acceptable and what's not. This clarity allows you to focus on building a connection that's rooted in mutual understanding and respect. So don't be afraid to set those boundaries. They're not a sign of weakness, they're a testament to your strength. And remember, the right person will see your boundaries not as obstacles, but as guideposts to the most authentic, fulfilling version of love. Let's talk about authenticity, real, unfiltered authenticity, and why it's such a magnet for respect, love, and admiration. In relationships, especially with men, there's often this pressure to show only the parts of yourself that you think will be acceptable or attractive. You put on a smile when you're hurting. You agree with things you don't believe in. You laugh at jokes that don't resonate. And all of this comes from a place of wanting to be liked, of wanting to connect. But what's the cost of that? When you suppress your true self, you create a facade, a version of yourself that isn't completely real. And while that might attract attention in the short term, it doesn't build the foundation for deep, meaningful relationships. Why? Because what men truly respect and admire isn't perfection, it's truth. It's you standing confidently in who you are, flaws, quirks, and all. That's what draws people in your courage to be unapologetically you. Men, whether they express it or not, are deeply drawn to women who are rooted in their authenticity. When you're honest about your thoughts, your feelings, and your needs, you create an environment where genuine connection can thrive. And you also give men permission to be their authentic selves. It's a powerful dynamic because authenticity fosters trust. It says, this is who I am. Can you meet me here? Now, here's the challenge. Embracing authenticity means being willing to let go of the fear of rejection. It means understanding that not everyone will appreciate or align with the real you, and that's okay. The right man won't just accept your authenticity, he'll celebrate it. He'll see it as the very thing that sets you apart, the thing that makes you special. And if someone can't meet you at that level, they're not the one for you, and that's a win, not a loss. When you stop trying to fit into molds or meet expectations that don't align with who you truly are, you free yourself. You let go of the exhausting task of pretending and step into the liberating reality of simply being. And that's where your power lies. That's where you become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because authenticity naturally shines. It's effortless and it's undeniable. So remember this, you don't have to be anyone other than yourself to attract love, respect, and admiration. In fact, the more you lean into who you are, the more you create space for the kind of connection that lasts, not one built on pretense, but on truth. Let your authenticity be your greatest strength, because it's the one thing no one else can replicate. Let's discuss the energy you bring into a relationship. Sometimes in the desire to connect, women overextend themselves. You might find yourself giving and giving, hoping it will be enough to show your worth or make someone stay. But here's the truth, overextending doesn't build respect or love. It often creates the opposite effect. Why? Because the more you pour into someone who hasn't earned it, the more they start to take it for granted. Men respect boundaries. They respect effort, but only when it's reciprocal. When you constantly bend over backward, neglecting your own needs, it sends the message that you don't value yourself as much as you value them. And whether they realize it consciously or not, it shifts the dynamic. The balance tilts, and instead of partnership, it begins to feel like one person chasing while the other drifts away. Now, this doesn't mean withholding affection or playing games. It's about honoring your own energy. It's about knowing when to lean in and when to step back. You don't need to be the one always initiating, always fixing, always making sure everything runs smoothly. That's not your job. A relationship is a two-way street, and when you allow space for the other person to meet you halfway, it fosters mutual respect. I think of it like a dance. If one person does all the moving, the dance loses its rhythm, its balance. But when both partners take steps, when there's give and take, it becomes something beautiful, something effortless. By stepping back, sometimes you create room for a man to step forward to show his intentions, his commitment, his effort. And when he does, it's a sign that he values the connection and is willing to invest in it. When you hold on to your energy, when you invest in yourself and set clear boundaries, you become more than just someone who gives, you become someone who inspires effort in others. Men are drawn to women who have standards, who know their worth and aren't afraid to stand by it. That energy is magnetic because it shows strength and self-respect. So don't be afraid to step back. Don't feel the need to fill every gap, fix every problem, or smooth every edge. Let there be space, let there be balance. In doing so, you create a dynamic where love and respect can truly thrive. And most importantly, you remind yourself that your energy is precious and is worth protecting. Let's talk about valuing yourself. So often in relationships, we are conditioned to think that being nice means always accommodating others, always saying yes, always being the one to make peace. But that's not true self-love. Real self-love is about acknowledging your own needs, your own worth, and not being afraid to stand firm in what you deserve. You see, when you constantly prioritize someone else's feelings or desires at the expense of your own, you teach people that your needs aren't as important. And that, my friends, is where we go wrong. In any relationship, whether romantic or otherwise, if you give away too much of yourself, if you deplete your own energy to please others, you risk losing yourself in the process. The more you ignore your own needs, the more disconnected you become from your own sense of value. The truth is, when you learn to value yourself first, you set a standard for how others should treat you. You don't need to beg for respect or affection when you walk in your power. People naturally rise to meet your energy. Men are drawn to women who have a clear sense of who they are, who don't apologize for their needs, and who understand that their time, attention, and love are precious. When you stand in your power, you show others how to treat you without needing to chase, overgive, or over-explain. When you stop being overly nice, you start respecting your own boundaries. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop settling for relationships that drain you, and you stop accepting less than you deserve. This doesn't mean being rude or cold. It just means knowing your worth and acting accordingly. It means being comfortable with saying no when something doesn't feel right and not feeling guilty for doing so. At the end of the day, it's about self-respect. If you don't respect yourself enough to stand firm in what you want and need, how can you expect others to do the same? When you value yourself, you make it clear that your presence is a gift, and that's what people will start to recognize. The key is to create a balance where you are giving, but not at the expense of your own well-being. Stand tall in who you are, and the world will adjust around you. Remember, you don't need to beg for anything. Your worth is already written in the stars. Own it, respect yourself first, and the rest will follow. Let's dive deeper into the importance of not seeking validation from men. So often, women find themselves in situations where they're constantly looking for attention or affirmation from the men in their lives. They measure their worth based on how a man responds to them, how he sees them, or how he treats them. But here's the truth: seeking validation from anyone, especially from someone else's approval, is a trap. It's a dangerous cycle that prevents you from standing fully in your own power. When you seek external validation, you're telling yourself that your worth is not inherent, that it's something you need to earn, to seek, to get from someone else. This creates an imbalance because no matter how much love or approval a man may give you, it will never be enough to fill the hole you've created by depending on him for your sense of self. Validation from others is fleeting. It's unreliable. One moment you have it and the next you don't. So if your happiness and self-worth are tied to someone else's approval, you'll constantly be on an emotional roller coaster. The truth is, your value as a person, as a woman, is not dependent on anyone else's opinion of you, not on a man's approval, not on how many likes you get on social media, and not on how others view you. Your value comes from within. It's something you create for yourself. When you stop seeking validation from others, you open yourself up to truly embracing who you are. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's standards, and you start setting your own. When you stop seeking validation, you begin to build confidence that is rooted in your own self-awareness, not external circumstances. You know who you are, and you know your worth without needing anyone to affirm it. This confidence isn't based on how others see you, but on how you see yourself. You stop questioning your decisions, your choices, and your worth because you're secure in them. You begin to walk with your head held high because you know you're worthy, you know you deserve respect, love, and kindness, not because someone tells you so, but because you know it deep in your core. This shift in mindset is liberating. It's empowering. It's the moment you stop looking outside yourself for approval and start to trust your own judgment, trust your own feelings, and trust that you are enough just as you are. And let me tell you, when you stop seeking validation, you attract better. You attract people who see you for who you truly are, people who appreciate and respect your inner strength and confidence. You don't need to seek their approval. They already see you as worthy. When you stop seeking validation, the energy you put out into the world changes. It's a magnetic energy, one that draws in people who align with your values, your strength, and your self-respect. This isn't about shutting people out or building walls. It's about building a foundation so strong that no one can tear it down. It's about standing firm in who you are without needing anyone else's affirmation. The key here is to understand that you are enough. You don't need anyone else to tell you that. When you stop seeking validation, you give yourself permission to be unapologetically you. And in doing so, you create space for the right people to enter your life, people who will see you for your worth, not because they've been asked to, but because they simply know it. And with that confidence, you move through life in a way that's grounded and peaceful, no longer swayed by the need to prove yourself to anyone. You are the validation you've been seeking all along. When we talk about being unapologetically yourself, we are acknowledging a deep truth that so many women often overlook. You are unique, and that uniqueness is your strength. Too often, society encourages women to conform, to fit into molds, and to present themselves in a way that is pleasing to others. We've all been there feeling the pressure to change or adapt to meet someone else's expectations. But this constant striving to please others, to fit into a box that was never meant for you, takes a toll on your authenticity and happiness. Being unapologetically yourself is about recognizing that your worth does not come from someone else's approval or acceptance. It comes from within. It comes from understanding and embracing the beauty, power, and potential you possess as an individual. It's about owning your strengths and weaknesses, understanding your passions, and embracing the things that make you you. When you start to do that, you stop hiding parts of yourself that you think might be too much for others. You stop apologizing for your opinions, your values, and your personality. This doesn't mean that you're walking through life in a way that disregards others or is dismissive of their feelings. Being unapologetically yourself means showing up fully as who you are, regardless of whether others agree with you or not. It means giving yourself the space to express your truth and your boundaries without guilt. It's about walking confidently in your individuality without shrinking or minimizing yourself to fit into someone else's idea of what's acceptable or desirable. You see, when you are unapologetically yourself, you begin to live in alignment with your deepest values. You stop compromising on what matters to you just to fit into someone else's narrative. And this alignment brings a deep sense of peace and clarity. You become more connected to your purpose, your passions, and the life you are meant to live. You don't feel the need to explain or justify who you are. You just live fully and authentically, knowing that you are worthy of love and respect as you are. The key here is that when you're true to yourself, you attract people who are in alignment with your energy. You no longer feel the need to fit into someone else's mold or to change yourself to make others like you. You start attracting people who see you, not just the version of you that you think they want to see, but the real you. And that's where the magic happens. When you're fully authentic, you connect with people on a deeper level. These connections are built on mutual respect and understanding, not on pretense or surface level attraction. Now, I know that being unapologetically yourself is not always easy. Society and social media have a way of constantly telling us who we should be, how we should look, and what we should do to be accepted or loved. But here's the truth: when you stop seeking validation from the outside world, when you stop measuring your worth by the opinions of others, you unlock your power. You begin to live in a way that is so true to yourself that you no longer care about pleasing people who don't appreciate the real you. This mindset shift is powerful because it frees you. It frees you from the fear of judgment, from the constant need for approval, and from the exhaustion of pretending to be someone you're not. The more you embrace who you are without apology, the more you allow yourself to grow, to evolve, and to step into the woman you are meant to become. So as you move forward, remember this: being unapologetically yourself is your greatest strength. It will help you build deeper relationships, cultivate greater self-respect, and create a life that is true to who you are. Never be afraid to stand firm in your authenticity. You are worthy, you are enough, and you are deserving of a life filled with respect, love, and success just as you are. When we talk about embracing self-love, we are really diving into a foundational aspect of who we are. Self-love is not about being arrogant or selfish. It's about having a healthy relationship with yourself. It's about recognizing your worth and treating yourself with kindness, care, and respect. Often, we focus so much on giving love to others, but we forget that we can't pour from an empty cup. If we don't take the time to love ourselves, to care for our emotional and mental well-being, then we have little to offer in return. Self-love is not a luxury, it's a necessity. In fact, when you learn to love yourself, you build a deep, unshakable foundation for your life. This foundation gives you the strength to navigate life challenges, to pursue your dreams, and to set boundaries that protect your peace. Self-love means accepting yourself, flaws and all. It's about acknowledging your mistakes and imperfections, but choosing not to let them define your worth. It's about forgiving yourself for past mistakes, letting go of guilt, and understanding that you are constantly evolving into the person you were always meant to be. Another essential part of self-love is self-compassion. It's one thing to love yourself when everything is going great, but what happens when life throws you a curveball? Self-love means being kind to yourself during the tough times, offering yourself the same compassion that you would extend to a friend. Instead of criticizing yourself, you choose to uplift yourself, knowing that mistakes are part of growth. When you fall, you get back up and treat yourself with the same kindness that you would show others in their time of need. This also means making time for yourself, taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional health. Self-love includes setting aside time for rest, doing things that bring you joy, and giving yourself the space to heal when needed. It's about creating habits that nurture your body and soul, whether that's through healthy eating, regular exercise, or simply spending time doing things that make you feel alive. It's about prioritizing yourself without feeling guilty, knowing that your well-being is just as important as anyone else's. Self-love is also about setting boundaries that protect your peace. It's about knowing when to say no, when to walk away, and when to stand firm in your decisions. When you truly love yourself, you stop allowing people, situations, or circumstances to drain your energy. You start recognizing that your time, your emotions, and your space are valuable, and you no longer tolerate anything or anyone that doesn't align with your self-respect. When you love yourself, you give yourself permission to ask for what you need. You stop playing small, stop settling for less than you deserve, and start expecting more from yourself and from others. This is where real transformation happens, when you begin to see yourself as worthy of all the good things life has to offer. And as a result, you start attracting people, experiences, and opportunities that reflect that same level of respect and value. So the more you love yourself, the more you elevate your standards. And that doesn't just apply to relationships, it applies to your career, your friendships, and every area of your life. Self-love is the key to setting the stage for a future filled with fulfillment, joy, and success. In the end, self-love is the foundation upon which everything else is built. It's the thing that will carry you through the highs and the lows, the moments of doubt, and the moments of celebration. It will empower you to live a life true to your heart, to your values, and to your deepest desires. Embrace it, practice it, and watch how it transforms your life in ways you never imagined. When we talk about learning to set boundaries, we are addressing one of the most essential skills in maintaining emotional health and protecting your peace. It's easy to get caught up in the expectations of others, the pressures of society, and the demands placed on us by our relationships, both personal and professional. But boundaries are not just about saying no to others, they're about saying yes to yourself. They're about prioritizing your well-being, ensuring that you are not constantly drained by other people's needs, wants, and behaviors. Setting boundaries is a way of showing yourself the respect that you deserve. At its core, setting boundaries is a form of self-respect. It means knowing your limits and protecting them without feeling guilty. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that we should always put others first, that we should always be available, helpful, and accommodating. But when we neglect our own needs and boundaries, we begin to feel resentful, exhausted, and sometimes even invisible. Setting boundaries helps prevent burnout, frustration, and unhealthy relationships. It's about reclaiming your time, your space, and your energy. Boundaries also empower you to take control of your life. Instead of letting circumstances, other people, or external pressures dictate your actions, you are asserting what is acceptable and what is not. This process may be uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to people pleasing or saying yes all the time. But with practice, it becomes easier. And what's even more powerful is that when you learn to set boundaries with others, you teach them how to treat you. When you say no to something that doesn't serve you or align with your values, you are telling people that your time and energy are precious. There's also a deeper aspect of setting boundaries in relationships, particularly romantic ones. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding, and part of that respect involves recognizing and respecting each other's boundaries. If you're constantly compromising, overextending, or ignoring your own needs to please someone else, you're creating an imbalance. Healthy relationships thrive when both individuals are able to express their needs and respect each other's limits. When you set boundaries in relationships, you foster an environment where both parties feel heard, valued, and cared for. It's important to remember that boundaries don't just apply to others, they also apply to you. Setting boundaries with yourself is just as vital. This could mean not allowing negative self-talk, choosing to prioritize your health over distractions, or setting limits on how much time you spend on certain activities that drain you. Boundaries with yourself allow you to stay aligned with your values and your goals. They ensure that you're not sabotaging your own success or peace by getting caught up in habits, thoughts, or behaviors that hold you back. In practice, setting boundaries can take many forms: physical, emotional, mental, and even digital. Maybe it's setting a time limit on how much you give to others, or perhaps it's deciding not to engage in conversations that bring you down. Maybe it's stepping back from people or environments that drain you, or committing to protecting your mental health by limiting exposure to negativity. Whatever it looks like, boundaries are essential for creating balance and living a life that's aligned with your true self. Ultimately, setting boundaries is a powerful act of self-love. It allows you to protect your energy, honor your needs, and build relationships that are supportive, balanced, and nurturing. When you set boundaries, you create a space for growth, peace, and joy to thrive. It's a step towards owning your life, your choices, and your path. So don't be afraid to say no when necessary. Don't be afraid to draw a line in the sand. Remember, the more you respect yourself and your boundaries, the more others will too. And in that space, you'll find the strength to live the life you truly deserve. Self-worth is not something that comes from the outside world. It is something that you must cultivate from within. It's easy to get caught up in what others think of us or what we believe others expect from us. But true self-worth comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for, not from the validation or approval of others. The more you align your actions with your values, the more you begin to see your own worth. When you have a solid sense of self-worth, it empowers you to make decisions that are in your best interest, not out of fear, obligation, or the need to please. The journey to building self-worth starts with acceptance of who you are, flaws and all. Too often, we are conditioned to think that we have to be perfect or meet certain standards to be worthy. But the truth is, you are worthy exactly as you are. Embracing your imperfections, acknowledging your past mistakes, and forgiving yourself for them is crucial in the process of reclaiming your worth. Your mistakes do not define you. Your capacity to learn from them and grow does. Every step you take towards accepting yourself is a step towards more confidence, more clarity, and more empowerment in your life. Building self-worth also means practicing self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on yourself, to criticize or judge yourself for not being up, but that mindset only holds you back. When you show yourself compassion, you are showing yourself the kindness and care that you would offer to a dear friend. This kindness creates a foundation for a more positive and balanced relationship with yourself. When you treat yourself with compassion, you allow yourself the space to make mistakes, to learn, and to evolve without fear of judgment. Another important aspect of self-worth is setting boundaries. Knowing what is and isn't acceptable in your life is a direct reflection of how much you value yourself. When you allow others to treat you in ways that are not aligned with your sense of self-worth, you are sending the message that you don't value yourself enough to stand up for what you deserve. Setting healthy boundaries helps you reinforce your worth and protect your peace. It's an act of self-respect that not only benefits you, but also teaches others how to treat you with respect. Also, self-worth is not just about what you accept in your relationships or interactions with others. It's also about what you're willing to accept within yourself. It's about consistently raising the standard for your own life, your habits, and your choices. The better you understand your own value, the more you refuse to settle for anything less than what you deserve. You'll start to prioritize your goals, your health, and your happiness, knowing that these things are not negotiable. The path to fully embracing your worth involves a daily commitment. It's not something that happens overnight. It requires self-reflection, self-care, and the courage to step into your power. But the more you invest in yourself, the more you will see your self-worth reflected back in your experiences. You will attract people who respect and value you because you respect and value yourself. You will make decisions that align with your purpose and your highest good because you know you are deserving of the best. In the end, your self-worth is the foundation of your life. It determines how you show up in the world, how you allow others to treat you, and how you navigate challenges and opportunities. When you truly believe in your worth, nothing can shake your confidence. You become unstoppable, no longer waiting for external validation, but instead creating a life that reflects your inner strength and self-respect. So let today be the day you decide to fully embrace your worth because you are more than enough.